Okay, good day and welcome back. This is the next video in my series on World Chess Championship blunders. We've moved on to after World War II now. Alekhine died and they arranged a tournament in 1948 to determine the new World Chess Champion. Now, I'm not going to go into full details about this. In fact, I don't know the full details, but the gist of it from articles by Kasparov and Wikipedia and Edward Winter and so on is that there was a 1938 AVRO tournament, and they said let's just get the same guys together and play a tournament to determine who the world chess champion is. Alekhine had died, Capablanca had died, so that left 6 players. Floor got replaced by Smyslov in terms of like a replacement of the Soviet players, and then for personal reasons, or you make your own view, Ruben Fine did not play. So you ended up with 5 players playing in this World Chess Championship tournament. Botvinnik, Smyslov, Euwe-Keres and Reshevsky, and it was everybody played everyone else 5 times. That it made it a bit complicated for me, which has been a bit of a gap because obviously my usual sort of little graphing programs wouldn't work because that was one match against another match. And it's also been quite a difficult sort of tournament for me to go to in terms of the blunders. There's been a lot of sort of half blunders and nearly piece blunders. Nothing too dramatic. I've just had to max out with the fact there's been a lot of games and so on. Anyway, I picked out a few games to have a look at, so we'll look at them pretty quickly. But as I said, there's nothing particularly memorable here, but certainly it's important just to know a little bit. 1948 tournament was sort of the stepping stone between the sort of the pre-World War II arrangement of people picking their own World Chess Championships, and then now you have this tournament, and then basically from now on you have candidates or internals and so on, and a FIDE World Chess Champion who gets a sort of a verified challenger to challenge for the title. And before we get started, I'd just like to quickly point out there's my new chart showing the progression of the game scores. The sort of cyan color is Botvinnik. Apart from very early rounds, he was clearly in front and won quite comfortably. Euwe was a bit out of form, a bit past it at this time, and there was always rumours about Keres kind of being encouraged to not fight so hard and so on, but you can see that probably it was the rightful winner of this tournament. Okay, so here's the game. It's between Euwe and Keres, and you can see there is a bunch of blunders. Just having a look at that, right? Keres is black. Keres is winning easily, blundered, blundered, Keres blundered, blundered. I'm just going to look at the particular position which caused a lot of those issues, and that is the position right here. Okay, so black's piece up. White does have 2 pawns, but black is fairly comfortably ahead here. White, played a terrible move. H3, right? So Keres didn't spot it the first time around. But what is wrong with that move? Okay, and as you no doubt realize, knight f3 check with the pawn pinned. And imagine that being a threat. The rook pins the other rook, and the queen pins the pawn, right? So the winning continuation here is knight f3 check. If you move into the corner, you're going to be mated. So king f2 is the only real viable move. Rook takes f1 check. And now if you take the rook back, then the knight takes the queen with check. So you can't do that. So you have king e3 as a continuation given as a variation. And I'm going to tell you what, this doesn't look pretty. So, I mean, obviously black's going to win from that position. However, go back to this position after h3. They've actually missed it and played queen g3. I mean, he's still totally winning. White can't take the rook because he needs to protect e2 and so on. But I just thought that h3 just allowing that fork was fairly poor form. Okay, so let's move on to the next game, which I'm going to look at. Botvinnik versus Reshevsky. Right, you can see once again quite a few sort of blunders very close to one another. Okay, so here's the position we're looking at in this next game between Botvinnik and Reshevsky. It's a very messy position. Black's bishop is attacking the white queen, and the white pawn is attacking the black queen. What black played was queen takes f5, which is a very unusual move, right? So let's go through the game continuation. Queen takes f5, goes from +2 to -2 effectively. White just takes the piece, has given up a piece, but must think there's some tactic here. mating net. Now here, knight f4, attacking the queen is just simply winning. White played knight h2. Black was bringing his rook around. And now white played knight f4. And that's basically game over. One line given is like queen c8. We should take another piece with check. I mean, obviously black is losing here. Let's go back to this position. Right now, it's why not the obvious continuation? Take the queen. Take the queen. Bishop takes f2, check. Rook takes f2, right? So knight takes f2. All makes perfect sense. According to this, black can try and get the exchange back. King h7. If I take that rook, you take that rook. So actually, the continuation is king takes the knight. And now there's rook f8 just get out of the way, and the dust is settled. And what's going on there? I mean, that continuation was obviously much better than the sort of adventure with the queen, which didn't achieve very much. Right, you can see this one. It's Reshevsky versus Keres. You can see that Reshevsky blundered this, and I'll just bring the game up on board. Yeah, so this is kind of a very interesting tactic. You think about it, right? Now have a look at the position, see what you would play. Think about it. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because white has the 3 pawns, although one's going to drop fairly quickly. Exchange down. Should be able to hold this position if we could put a bishop on a good spot. Now, the computer's line is bishop c3, forcing either the evacuation of the queen or exchange off, and white considers that holdable. Now, what actually did happen is white played a bit more passively, bishop c1, to hold the pawn, and now this is the idea. Black just swings his rook around. White now played e4. It doesn't help very much, and then now basically white is toast. You see, this just a couple of moves from being even. You can see on the scorecard here it was kind of even, a little bit of pressure, and now you're a goner because black has penetrated with both major pieces on the first rank. A bit strange, a bit unusual. So that was that one. I don't want to go any further on that. You can see Reshevsky just basically blew that game. Now let's look at the next one. Botvinnik versus Reshevsky. Here's the position. Once again, these are very, very unusual positions. You don't get a position like this so much nowadays. And a lot of pressure down the d file on behalf of black. Have a look at the position and see how you would handle the pressure on the d3 square. Should have been played is simply rook d to d1. Just add that variation. Everything's kind of under control. Yeah, no real worrying tactics. But what was played was rook e1. Looks about the same, doesn't it? Have a quick look and see what's wrong with it. It sort of like instantly loses, although to be honest, I'm going to say that black didn't spot it straight away. Black played h4, white red his king back, and then now this was the killer move, knight b3. So you're now attacking the knight, and of course you've got too much pressure on the bishop, and the rook has to move, so the rook moves. Oh, in fact, this is tactic. It was suggesting the rook to move, but this is the other tactic where you just dive in there. But basically, take with the pawn, take the rook. Yeah, that's basically game over. Black ends up a piece. So that was like basically sort of that doubling rook's self-pinning actually worked out very badly for white. Let's keep going. This next game also quite interesting. I couldn't work out what was going on until I just went a bit deeper in the analysis. Let's bring up the game. This one is Keres versus Reshevsky, and you can see there is the blunder, nearly at move 30, and the next move blows it. Let's just, I won't say this is tactical challenge, this is quite deep, this one. So basically, let's just have a look. C3, and then might as well take the bishop, take back with the rook. Yeah, one thing, the rook is pinned to the queen, that sort of causes some problems. A couple of continuations here. Takes 3-3 is fine. And you can see what the problem with that c3 move was, that the rook, the knight was hanging. So rather than taking back, white just retreated and held the knight, but that doesn't help. Sacrifices the exchange. This is always very interesting. Now have a look at this, right? And why is this -4? This pawn, black can do very little about pawn advancing. Yeah. Pawn advancing queen e2, and that's why white will have to give up his rook. So that's kind of funny. And next one, Reshevsky versus Botvinnik. Just go through these quickly. just so you get a sense of, there's a lot of sort of these niggly little blunders going on. You can see there's blunders all during this game. The one we're going to focus on is that one about move 37 or so. Here's the position. You can see that material's even and position quite closed. So, whatever, it's fairly even, right? Black is pretending to put some pressure on the F file, but actually there's nothing to be done there until this thing. White should have played knight e4, e5. He played knight f4, and what are you going to do here? Crying out to be played, and he's gone from 0 to +5 to black in that simple sequence. You can pick up the pawn, right, and then g3 in the next couple of moves is just going to be crushing. So this is kind of the computer and the game continuation. Queen d3 supposedly another error or mistake. It just doesn't matter. g3 coming. Not much to do. Queen f1. There's actually a mate, but wasn't found. Check, 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 and the game ended there. Right. I mean, it was a closed position. Not what was going on, and then suddenly, bang, exchange sack, and white got wiped out. Okay, so we've got one last game to look at. You can see here that the game's kind of even. Keres made a blunder, and Euwe made a couple of blunders, just lost the thread of the game. So let's have a quick look at this one. Yeah, about here. Okay, it's fine. Sort of white's kind of holding on. Black's tripling. White should defend the back rank. All good, all good. Rook c2. Okay, where would you move now? It's a question for you. I mean, you're kind of losing anyway, but you're only down a couple, and you've got major pieces on the board. Something might pop up. Queen d4. Okay, what's wrong with queen d4? Yeah, it's mate in 4. Right, check. If you take, it's checkmate. Can take no queen. I mean, obviously, that resigned. That's not going anywhere good. I have a few more blunders like that, but I'm not going to go through them. So for the next World Chess Championship, 1950, when Botvinnik faces Bronstein, we get back to a normal match format, having had the appropriate sort of qualifying tournaments and so on. I hope you enjoyed that as I get back on track for doing the World Chess Championship Blunders. Thank you for watching.